Joining us now, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Hey, Shannon, good to be with you.
Okay, so you're getting a lot of attention this week for an op-ed that you wrote. It sounds like you're having potential second thoughts about the deal you made to get the Inflation Reduction Act passed. You say the administration is attempting at every turn to implement the bill it wanted, not the bill Congress actually passed. Have you discussed it? Will you discuss it with President Biden?
I sure hope so, and I've been discussing it with all of his basically administration, and I'm very, very disappointed in how they have interpreted a piece of legislation that is not how it was written. It was not the intent, and it's not the agreement that President Biden and I had. So I'm hoping that he intervenes and basically says, listen, we need energy security. We have to produce fossil energy cleaner and better than ever before, but we need an amount of it that we can be energy independent and secured as a nation. We can also invest in the technologies that will have energy for the future. We did both. And they're trying to now implement a bill, Shannon, that we didn't write. And it's a bill they didn't pass. So just do our job. Follow the law. Do your job.
So I know that one of the sticking points seems to be the new regulations that came out, the proposed regulations with respect to electric vehicles, about how much of that should be domestic production. You know, the White House is going to say they're relying on experts for these regulations, and there's now a public comment period open to anybody who wants to weigh in. I mean, isn't that the protocol?
Well, the protocol would have been to implement the bill exactly. We laid out the bill and wrote the bill in a way that it told you what was sourcing and processing and what was manufacturing. The whole purpose is to bring basically reliable supply chains to America, be able to manufacture the healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and we've done that. But if they don't implement it in a way that it was written and implement it in a way they desire, they just want to throw caution to the wind and put more money out and throw more money from the Treasury in credits that basically are not going to accelerate how quickly that we can be totally self-reliant in America. There's nothing wrong with us bringing manufacturing. We should not be dependent and relying on China's supply chain. You know, I said I'm old enough to remember standing in line in 1974 to buy gasoline to go to work. I don't want to stand in line to buy a battery to run a vehicle and waiting on it from China. That's what we're doing, and that's what the intent of the bill was.
Okay, to the point of whether or not you got snookered in making this deal with the White House, Hot Air writes this. It says Manchin wants to distance himself from the administration he enabled with the Inflation Reduction Act and really wants to distance himself from its results, but that's impossible. The vote on the IRA came down to Manchin. Manchin negotiated its terms, and Manchin endorsed its policies and the lack of control the legislation had on Biden's use of the bill. If Manchin wants to talk about political malpractice, maybe he should look in the mirror. Your response?
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, from the standpoint, we write pieces of legislation. We expect the administration to adhere to the intent and how we wrote it. It's in the bill. Read the law. So anybody who has that opinion has not read the bill. What we have to do now, we have a process so we can hold their feet accountable. I can tell you, we brought down inflation. We can do an awful lot more. We've got more drilling going on. We're producing more oil and gas than we did before. And we're more reliant on ourselves than we were on foreign supply chains. We can do all of this. This bill was written for one purpose: energy security, bring down the cost of drugs, be able to pay down debt, which we hadn't done in 20 years. But now when they want to blow the cap off of it, I'm going to fight and fight back hard. And I would hope that my Democrat and Republican people, friends, and in legislature especially, would feel the same way and work with us to hold the administration's feet to the fire.
So
it was not throwing caution to the wind. We have runaway inflation right now. We still have high inflation. We have a debt ceiling that's going to be crashing upon us, and we're not doing anything to address that. Not even talking about it.
Some of the analysts out there, though, will look at the Inflation Reduction Act and say, you know, even looking at CBO scoring and other, Penn Wharton, they will say this Inflation Reduction bill was never going to solve that problem. So even if we still have those problems now, does that lie somewhat at your feet for voting for this?
Shannon, the bottom line is when you have a chance to do something and make it better, when you have basically an administration was going away from the dependable, reliable fossil fuels that we have to run the country for energy security, when we're relying, we were saying maybe we can take the sanctions off of Iran. Come on, you're going to take the sanctions off of a country that promotes the most horrific terrorist support around the world and give them more revenue to do harm to humankind. And we know that we have to have our own reliable resources, and we can do it right here in America, and we weren't doing it. You're going to sit back and say, well, I'm afraid politically it might not be popular. I've got to do what I think that is the best thing I can for my country. And I think that we did a piece of legislation that'll do exactly what it was intended to do. We've got to make sure the administration now administers the way it's supposed to. The bottom line is we have brought down, we have put more product into the market. We have just done more leasing and permitting than we've done. We need a permitting bill that changes how fast we're able to get this done. And we have Democrats and Republicans agreeing that it needs to be done. We just got to put a piece of legislation that works. We've got to work together as the United States and not allowing the political diversity of this country keep pushing us further and further to the extremes.
And I know that you think the extremes are pulling both parties to the far left, to the far right. You've said you'll do what's best for your country, and a lot of people are wondering whether you think that might mean a third-party run for the White House. Politico says this, that you're not deciding on anything until the end of the year, but you're also pointedly refusing to rule out a presidential run on a third-party ticket. Do you rule it out today? Is it still on the table?
Here's the thing. Only in America do we start the next election the day after the last election.
It's underway.
And I've not done that. I said that's underway, but not. I'm going to do my job. I want to get this debt ceiling. I want to get this behind us, pay our debts, start trying to get our expenses down. We can do this. We can reel in the amount of expenses that we have and the debt that we're accumulating. For 21 years, Shannon, we have spent more money in America than we've taken in. You can't run your household that way. No business can survive that way. But yet here we are. We're not doing our budget process the way we're supposed to get it done on time. That saves billions of dollars. I've got a lot of work to do, and every other senator and congressperson does. But everybody's worried about the election.
Can a President Manchin, though, better influence that conversation?
Well, you know, everybody's worried about who's running for what and who's going to be this. My main concern, can we start a dialogue? People are wore out, Shannon. They're tired. All we have is this bickering and fighting. They says, can't you come together? So if we can start a dialogue where the middle, can't we basically bring the extremes back to where they're supposed to be in a sensible, reasonable middle?
I'm going to put you down for not ruling it out. We'll leave that there, but I want to get a quick reaction from you about President Trump's indictment.
Sure. It's just a very, very sad day for America. Very sad day, especially when people are maybe believing that the rule of law or justice is not working the way it's supposed to and it's biased. We can't have that. You know, Abraham Lincoln said a house divided cannot stand, and we cannot divide our country. But on the other hand, no one's above the law, but no one should be targeted by the law. So let's wait and see what comes out next week. I pray that what they come out and whatever comes out, that they have done a thorough examination, they've done a thorough job as far as showing that the rule of law does work for all of us. And we'll just have to wait and see on that. But it's a very sad day.
Senator, thank you very much for your time. Always good to see you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.